Boom.
Shakalaka.
Shakalaka, yeah. All right, we're live. Um, what are we at now? Episode 4. Make,
Yeah,
make
wow.
4 of these things. Still here.
Today we're talking about failure.
Yep.
Good times.
Yeah. Very positive subject. I kind of brought this topic up last minute just because I felt that it was really important, especially because of my own sort of personal circumstances. Basically, over the year, I have been trying a lot of different new ventures, and as a result of trying all these things, and they're things that are sort of out there. There's higher risk involved. There's a lower chance of you actually being successful in them. That you find yourself failing pretty much at every step along the way at the beginning, and it makes you seem like you're a big failure and that you shouldn't really do anything ambitious. So I figured that if I'm going through something like that, maybe others are as well, and maybe you also have in the past, and maybe even right now. I don't know, and it would be a pretty interesting thing to talk about. So
For sure.
yeah, personally, I find that I'm really good at telling people. I'm really good at coaching people through failure, but for myself, I'm really bad at navigating through it.
Okay.
Like it's almost like I can see the logical sides of, well, like you did this, it was your first time. Obviously, every time you try something the first time, even like riding a bike, you're going to keep falling, falling, and falling, and eventually one day it's going to work. It's really easy to be logical when it's somebody else's dilemma, but then when it's my own, I find that I get a little wrapped around the emotions too much, and I become really pessimistic and put myself down, tell myself I'm completely useless. Like I take it to the extreme, I find.
Okay.
So I don't know, like I just kind of wanted to do, I mean, we didn't really plan this talk, so I just wanted to do like a whatever is on your mind based on the what we talk about and just sort of seeing where we go from there.
All right. When you proposed this topic last night, I was thinking about it, thinking of what I wanted to say, and absolutely the first thing that came to my mind was there's a book by a man named Ray Dalio called Principles.
Okay.
And he also does I think there's a couple YouTube videos that he puts out sort of explaining some of the concepts that he goes over. So I'm not sure exactly what he does, but I think he's a hedge fund manager. Okay. He's extremely successful in the financial field anyway. And he explains life, just like he puts life into a perspective that really helps you see failure as a positive thing. And I think it's probably the most valuable thing I have to say about failure is just something I've learned that somebody else said was absolutely his idea, but I'll explain it.
Sure.
And see what you have to say. So he explains life as a feedback loop. So essentially, if you were to picture, here, let me start on this side. Yeah. Okay. You loop up, and then when you get to the top of the loop, you're at the peak of your current ability, and so failure is inevitable. And so you fail and you fall, but your goal then is to pick yourself up before you get back down to where you started. So if you're doing it properly, you come to the peak of your ability, you fail, but then you pick yourself up, and then the next time you come to the peak of your ability, you're higher than you were the last time. So and then you fail, and then you loop, and then you fail, and then you loop. And your whole life is just this series of pushing yourself to your peak
Mm-hmm.
failing and then getting to a higher peak, and then
Right.
failing and getting to a higher peak, and failing and getting to a higher peak. So over a long term, you have like an upward linear trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the way that you maintain it is that you actually start ignoring the peaks entirely. So you pay almost no attention to what you're working towards, other than that you set yourself a goal that you think would be good, you think that you want, and then you just fall in love with that feedback loop. You fall in love with the process,
Mm-hmm.
almost to the point where it's just about going through the process. It's not even about getting to the goal anymore.
Mm.
And yeah, I just thought that was a really good perspective. It helps you to deal with failure in a way where you're no longer seeing failure as failure. You're actually just seeing failure as a step in the process of progress.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've heard from almost every single motivational, successful person I've heard talk, essentially that, that failure is part of progress and you have to fall in love with failure. But that's the best sort of like explanation of it that I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a YouTube video about it that's well worth watching. It's animated. It's really funny.
What is it? Do you remember?
I just searched Ray Dalio
Ray
principles.
Dalio. Okay.
Yeah.
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 No, I totally agree with that. And what's interesting is that when you say that you have to fall in love with the process, it's kind of like what I've also learned and what I also tell people when I'm trying to talk them through like a downturn in their progress and whatever they're doing. But then I find that I'm really bad at applying it to myself. Even though I can, in the moment that I feel like crap, I can be like, well, this is just part of it. This is the 1st
Mm-hmm.
time you've done this. And I don't know, maybe for me I'm at that point right now where I feel like perhaps I'm trying too many things and I need to just focus on one.
Okay.
Because I think that right now what's happening to me is that because I'm kind of going towards this goal of trying all these things that I wanted to try, I'm in the beginner stages of everything. And then
Right. So there's an
from that
excessive amount of failure in
I'm
all of them.
failing at every step along the way.
Right.
So it's pretty discouraging versus I think maybe I need to like pick one or two or maybe just one and pretty much focus on that. At least 80 to 90% of my focus should be on that and then see a little bit of success in that
Mm-hmm.
first venture and then move on to the other ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I don't know that's a hard one because I mean I've approached things really differently. I'm a lot more like singularly focused.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it depends on why you're trying all those things. Really, at the end of the day, if I was to like coach you through your own failure, like you
basically.
do for other people, it's are you trying so many things because you feel like you need to have a backup plan, or are you trying them
I'll talk
because
about it.
you're interested in
I'll just
all
straight
these
up
things?
say the reasons because it's easier to talk about specifics. So last year I applied to medical school. I got through the interview process. Uh, Interview process went really well. I scored high in the interview, but I still didn't get in. It's just part of the process. Like it's very competitive, and that wasn't a huge shocker because it was my first time applying. I'm familiar with the statistics, and also I'm aware of the fact that just because you didn't get in the first time doesn't mean it's a permanent no. In fact, they even encourage you to apply multiple times because many people apply multiple times before they get in.
Yeah.
So then I told myself, so this was last May, this was May of 2018. I told myself, hey, I've been like very singularly focused on this endeavor for like years, probably about 3 years. And I haven't really progressed in anything else. And right now that I didn't get my acceptance letter, I don't have much. I basically have my job and like the things I'm thankful for, like my friends and my family. But as far as like personal successes that aren't relationship based, I didn't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, let's think of a few things that I want to do, and let's do them all. And then the goal is going to be by next year May, I'll be at a point, hopefully, where if I do get into medical school, and by the way, I had another interview. I went to my interview. Now I'm waiting to find out if I got in or not. I want it to be an option rather than my only choice. Does that make sense? Like I wanted
Mm.
going to medical school to be one path that I could take versus the only path that was offered to me. I wanted to essentially have other things in my life that I could pursue. So
Okay.
things turned out to be pretty random. For one, I was like, I kind of want to do something that is kind of, focused on the business side. And I'm like, I've never run a business in my life. I don't even know where to start. So I kind of started Googling things and I found different ways that you could start a business online. So I, went into it, started studying it, read up on it, watched different YouTube videos, Googled it, blah, blah, blah. And eventually it went from being just an idea to being a thing that I actually currently run right now. Now, it's not the fanciest thing in the world. Right now, it's basically at the point where it's paying for itself. So the money that it makes covers all of its overhead, but I'm not actually making any money out of it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it has to do with, well, it was my first attempt. So I'm not going to turn into a multimillionaire on my first attempt. And it's just sort of dormant right now. It's just kind of on the side, something I check on every so often. And I feel that if I actually put more focus on it, it would have been something a bit more substantial by now. But then at the same time, I was like, I really want to, because I come from an arts background before university. I was like, I want to focus on something more creative. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make YouTube videos. So I started making like really, really obscure comedic YouTube videos with another one of my friends, and it just turned out to be way too much time for what we wanted to do. And he had a full-time business, and I was busy doing other things, so we just kind of stopped it. And now that sort of creative energy is being put towards like videos like this or like my blog website or etc.
Mm-hmm.
I also was wanting to start a different type of business. So I was like, let's look at something that is very common that I could make money right away, even if it isn't that much money that people don't want to do. So I decided I was going to do yard work. So, like, very, very intro, basic landscaping work. So,
Mm-hmm.
pulling out weeds, cleaning up shrubs, trimming back hedges, stuff like that. So, I think I spent like $30 on equipment from a Canadian Tire. And then I just started posting ads on like Bidding Wars or Craigslist, and I started getting business. And I actually made pretty good money. I stopped doing it because I just didn't like it. So that one was just one that I probably got the most success out of. And had I liked it and kept going forward with it, I probably would have short term done the best. But what I'm saying is like throughout all this, and then there's a few other ones that they're not full fledged projects. They're just sort of ideas, and I find that sometimes I spend a lot of time thinking about it. So like this whole
Okay.
year, it's just been like navigating through all these like completely different ventures, and it just feels like I'm either stuck at a certain step at one of them, or um, I'm so early in the process as another that I feel like a total failure.
Okay. I think I don't know. That's a hard one.
There's
I
one. There's another one too. I kept it out. I was interested in real estate, so I enrolled in
okay.
a real estate course to become a realtor, and I've been interning at a realtor firm. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like a whole other thing of its own. So like I'm doing all these like things that I'm really excited about, but I don't know where any of them are gonna go, and I don't know which one to focus on. And
Right.
that's
Yeah.
my biggest thing is like how am I supposed to progress in these things where I can't even focus on one of them?
Yeah. I guess it feels to me like you're at this point, like you're in an exploratory stage.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're not gonna make progress in any of those things
Mm-hmm.
until you decide which one. Because like when you watch people or read the books of people who started internet businesses, you know, their success is like usually like their 8th, 9th, 10th, 20th, 30th internet business. They just like singularly focus on that, and then finally they get the $1 million idea kind of thing. Or like realtors who, you know, like the most, like I wanted to be, well, my sort of like backup plan if I wasn't going to go to law school was to be a realtor. This was a few years ago. I looked into it, and all the most successful realtors, you know, they're cold calling like 6 hours a day and knocking door to door and stuff to get. And so it feels like maybe you're just like, you've given yourself the chance to try these things, right? Like you found out you didn't like landscaping and stuff. And so, yeah, if you get into med school, or if you don't get into med school, then you have this choice of like, what am I going to do? But now you're kind of at that stage where you have to choose.
Yeah.
Which is harder than, I feel like that's harder than the exploratory stage. Because the exploratory stage, you get to like tickle your fancy all the time. Whereas now once you choose, then you have to get into the like grunt work of one thing, you know, like, and I guess my path has been different. I just like, I went like single focus law school for the last like 2.5 years. So instead of looking for any sort of like alternative option, I just went like, okay, what do I need to do to make it so that it's a guarantee? Like I'm going to guarantee that I'm going to get in and do whatever I need to do to guarantee that. And then this last year, because I didn't get into law school last year, so I've just had a year now. I just kind of was about finding a few new jobs. Like I got a couple new jobs that I've never tried, which was kind of fun and interesting, but they weren't anything I would ever commit to long term.
Yeah.
And then I just read. I was just like, okay, well, I'm just going to read a lot and watch a lot of YouTube videos and just kind of learn as much practical advice that I think I could apply to going to law school and doing well and stuff like that. But I didn't really explore any like alternative avenues other than like YouTube videos, which I'm definitely enjoying a lot, but I feel like it's more of a like release. Like I have spent a lot of time acquiring some information, and I love talking about it, and there's not a whole lot of people that I know that like to talk about this kind of stuff, so it's awesome and it's super fun. But like, yeah, it feels to me like you're just at the stage where it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, you got to choose one.
Yeah.
But you have so many more options, so it's like harder to choose.
Yeah, because I was singularly focused, just like yourself, up to basically last year. Obviously, it didn't go the way I had planned it, so I guess I was trying to diversify and just sort of see what else is out there, because it's sort of like I find that maybe it was also because the different types of people I hung out with throughout my my late teens and early 20s was all people that were focused on a single goal. So like if they were in university, they were focused on getting into this program. They were focused on getting into this class, getting this grade, so then they can move on to the next step. So it was just like one step at a time. Versus now I find like I'm on this path, they all pretty much go to the end destination for the most part, but they kind of split up and they're going in their own different ways, like on some sort of crazy hiking trail.
Yeah, you're at a fork.
Yeah, but rather than it being a fork, it's like a
six-pronged fork.
Trident. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just tough, and I think that the reason I'm having difficulty with the failure is that I'm so focused on like 4 or 5 steps ahead, where like I'm actually enjoying the rewards, or actually like that book that you talked about, sort of like in the momentum of the process, where I
Hmm.
fight right now, it's really hard for me to sort of visualize it in a way where I actually feel like there is momentum. Right now, I feel like there's a
Right.
roadblock every time I get the gears turning.
Yeah. Well, I think that I I definitely think that the something that you have to have success that you can celebrate
Yeah,
along the way.
yeah,
Otherwise, there's no maintenance. And I think that's part of why, like, at this point, it has, like, at some point, you have to commit to a singular focus.
hmm,
Otherwise, you're never going to find that success that you can celebrate. And so then it becomes like hard because it becomes really easy to start something and then stop when you hit the first
yeah,
failure,
yeah,
because and then from there it becomes really easy to just go fix mindset. Well, I can't do anything because every time I try something I fail.
hmm,
And the reality is every time anybody tries something they fail. It's just that you got to like work through the failure, but it's easier to work through the failure of one thing rather than have like four things on the go and then work through four failures all at the same time.
hmm,
And you know it
hmm.
I think it's like
Yeah. It's a
that's
lot easier to like deal with one thing not going so well if there's another thing that's going really well. And I think
yeah,
the
if you
only
could like
way,
perfectly stagger, so every time you have a failure in one thing you have
yeah,
a success in
just like,
another. That'd be
yeah,
great.
you're just always at neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think right now, I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking out loud is I probably need to sit down and see, okay, which one do I, which one am I able to put up with for the longest period of time with no results? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, like, thinking that I'm gonna immediately reap the rewards, put that aside and look at, okay, which one am I willing to do for the longest period of time with no results? Which one I'm gonna work the hardest for free? So then in the future, when it does actually get to a point of actually bringing in something, I mean, in this case, they're all sort of businessy ventures. So the something would be some sort of money or some sort of incentive. Which one am I willing to put the most amount of hours into before that happens? I think
I
that's
would actually say it's, well, partially that, but even more so, which one are you gonna enjoy more?
it's
Really?
kind of the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, like
Same thing, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm willing to pay to go to law school,
Hmm.
partially because I want to be a lawyer, and partially because I think law school is going to be really fun. Like
Right.
all the things I know I have to do, all the whole way that the system of law school is set up is like exactly all things that I enjoy.
Hmm.
Right? Like law school is set up to have 100% exams. That's exactly how I would want to do a class. I
Hmm.
would way rather have 100% exam than like six little busy work projects
Yeah.
throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it just seems to like fit my personality,
Hmm. Hmm.
and so like there everything you do, there's a certain amount of work and certain areas where everybody just seems to fail, and then you just got to decide like which failures are you most excited about having, I guess.
Yeah.
Like are you most excited about cold calling, right? Because that's just a million tiny little failures,
Hmm.
right? Every time you phone somebody there's probably like a 75% chance that you're going to be rejected. That just sounds absolutely terrible to me. Like that sounds soul sucking to
Yeah.
my personality.
Yeah.
But there are other people who are really good at that. It just washes off. They have no problem with that, and they'll just call 600 people to get three clients,
Hmm.
and all they'll care about is the three clients. Whereas I would care about the 597 rejections,
Right.
right? And then so it's like antagonistic to my personality.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I'm kind of on the other end where I enjoy the grind, but I think right now I I mean, I don't even have my license yet to be a realtor, so I don't even have the opportunity to do all those things.
Hmm.
So right now I'm just sort of in the research and development stage of like 5 different things. So it's just like, what do we do?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would say even though it's not ideal, like sometimes I have pretty bad days, I would still recommend that anyone who wants to do something or wants to do multiple things like me, that you just go out and try it. Like
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's usually the toughest step, is just to build up the courage to do it. Like I remember my first real landscaping gig wasn't even in town. It was like an hour drive away. But I was so excited to have my first client because still like didn't really know if I wanted to do the job or not. And I went in there and I'm like I had pictures of like their yard. I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna do this and do this. I'm visualizing what I'm gonna do. And then on the drive there, I'm like, okay, I'm first gonna focus on this, then this. I'm gonna be the most efficient. I'm gonna work super fast, try to get it all done. And their yard it wasn't like a mess or anything. It just needed work because all, it just, there's a lot of overgrown weeds. And like, to be quite honest with you, I was making it up as I went. I remember the lady was pointing at some plants like, okay, I want this trimmed back, but then some plants she would just say the names and I didn't know what they were. So she was
Oh
like, "Yeah, and I
no.
want like this thing trimmed back." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, perfect." And I would like memorize the name of the thing, and when like she kind of left, I kind of Googled what the plant was so I could see what it looked like, and then I'm like, "Okay, it's this thing, I think." But you know what I'll do? I was like, she said she'll be back in 2 hours. I'll focus on everything else over there and I'll sort of like skip this thing. And then when she comes back, maybe she'll remind me, hey, don't forget to get that plant again, which actually happened. So I'm like, okay, thank God. Because I didn't want to like trim back something that she didn't want trimmed back. So that was like stressful because I'm like, you look like an idiot if you're the one who's going there to clean up someone's yard and you don't even know the name of some of the plants
Mm,
that you're supposed to clean up. But
yeah.
honestly, I was there for the whole day and they were like surprised by how much work I was able to do. Like their yard needed a lot of work. Like there was a lot of stuff to clear up. Like I filled up their entire trailer of yard waste and all of their yard bins. Like I was sore by the end of that day, and they were like astounded that I was able to clear it up that well. And they brought me back in one more time, and I'm actually going one more time, and they're going to be the last clients because they were my first clients. So even though I had quit landscaping, I was like, you know what? I'll come do one more cleanup for you guys just because that was a good experience.
Nice.
But yeah, like I had no idea what I was doing, man, and
Yeah.
I just sort of figured it out. And I think the advice I would give to people is that, yeah, I totally understand that's scary, especially when you're the one who's supposed to know what you're doing. But as long as it's something where if your ignorance doesn't result in someone getting hurt or someone's property getting ruined, just swallow your pride and go and do it. If you need to ask questions, just ask questions. If you can't ask questions, figure out another way to learn, but just go and do. Just do.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, we talked about how it's important you have to match up your long-term sort of trajectory with something that goes hand in hand with your personality.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the biggest problems people have is they just don't really know what their personality is. And I think the only way that you figure out what your personality is by going through failure,
Mm-hmm.
because some failures are going to hit you really hard and be like really brutal, and then sometimes you'll just be able to like pick yourself up and be like, oh, that was really hard, but I want to do it again. And sometimes you'll be like, yeah, okay, I'm kind of glad I did that, but I never want to do that again. Right? Like I tried farming for a summer.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up being kind of fun, but I never want to work on a farm again. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe a hobby farm or something that like, but like actual farming work,
It's
like
tough work.
baling hay. Oh my god, the first day, my friend picked me up at like 8 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "Yeah, I think we'll probably work till around 12." I was like, "Okay, sweet, that's fine." I didn't realize that meant midnight. you know. And then the next day, is picking me up at 8 o'clock in the morning again, and I was like, did not want to go back, and it was like a whole thing to like get back to the farm and keep doing it, and slowly but surely I like got kind of more into it and stuff. But by the end of the summer, I was like, okay, yeah, I did that, but like, no, that's not for me.
Never.
I tried like volunteering in the classroom. I wanted to be a teacher, and I was like, yeah, actually, I thought I was really gonna like this, but this is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to try things and like sometimes be bad at them before you actually know. Like you can track through things in your head for sure, and you can like follow the trajectory of certain career paths like in your imagination, but it's like you can't do all the work in your head. Like you have to just go out and try things and be bad at them and suck at them and fail at them. And you just have to remember too that like you're not the only person who fails. Everybody fails, and people aren't typically mean or rude when you fail. Typically when someone watches you fail, they go, oh, this reminds me of the time that I failed and I felt really crappy, so I'm going to go try and help this person that I'm watching struggle right now. It's not like, oh, haha, you're struggling, sucks to be
sucks
you.
To be
you
like,
noob. People aren't typically...
Yeah, this isn't like Xbox that. Live. People are nice.
Yeah. Life is not flaming, and all the things people do on the internet, they don't typically do in real life.
No. Yeah. Well, that's all I have to say. I don't know about yourself.
Yeah, it seems like a good place to kind of cap it off.
Cool. Well, if you liked our videos, make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. You want to say one more thing? Add with the blurb. Please.
Pardon?
Please come back. Please watch our videos.
Yeah, please. Please like. Please subscribe. Please comment.
Yeah.
Definitely. And let us know what you think. Let us know, whether or not we failed. And we'll see you next time.
Our retention time is like 30 seconds. Well, there we go. We just failed on the video about failure. Anyways, all right. Have a good night, folks.